All right, welcome back to the podcast. My name is Doug Sandler, along with John Browning, Building Your Life podcast. Hey, before I get into the topic today, John, and introduce you officially, I want to I want to share for those of you that have been listening in over and over and over again. I sometimes wait till the end of the podcast to share this information, and while nobody has razzed me about it, I want to give the information up front because I know we're going to deliver some value nuggets, and John's going to deliver some great information today. If you want to get a copy of John's book, Build a Life, Not Just a Portfolio, or to connect with John after today's episode and you get all the information, text the word life to 321-421-5213. And you can always visit John's website at guardianrockwealth.com. All right. I've promoted it as best I can, John. Now it's up to them to take it the rest of the way.
That's
so
right.
John Browning, welcome back to your podcast, the Building Your Life podcast. Welcome.
Good to be here.
So, John, this is going to be one of those subjects that so many people are going to be able to relate to because they probably, I think right before I hit record, you said, I've been getting these calls recently and the calls sound something like this. And then it sounds like, is it too late, John? Is it too late? It's never too late to meet with John. He always wants to chat with you. But the real question is it too late for them to have enough money saved up for retirement to live the lifestyle that they want? So I got to ask the question, is it ever too late, John?
So it can be too late to have the true best life that you could have had. Yes, it can be too late. Is it too late to prepare for so that you're literally not in angst every single night about whether or not you're going to be able to pay the rent bill or to be able to buy groceries? I don't think it's ever too late to make plans to make that happen.
Is the challenge that people they just didn't think about it, or is it always like, hey, tomorrow's coming, so I always have tomorrow to start? Is that, I mean, where's the big problem occur?
I hear all kinds of stories. So a lot of it is, I just didn't think about it until too late. I thought I would always start later. I always needed to send a kid to college. I needed to buy that car because there's always something, right? And there is.
Always.
We know this, right? I mean, there's always something that comes up. If you don't spend a little time and think about it, put a plan in place that runs essentially on autopilot, to put money away aside from Social Security, because that's not going to cover everything, and aside even from your 401k, then you stand the chance that you're not going to have the right amount of cash flows at the right time. And the other big thing is you may not have invested in the right way to maximize your tax savings, which is another big problem that we find. But I also find a lot of I got divorced. I got sued. I was in a car accident, and the insurance didn't cover all of it. Or the most common one is I got sick. One of my family members got sick, and we went bankrupt on medical bills. That's the number one cause of bankruptcy in America is medical expenses. So you hear that kind of stuff a lot too, and it's like you get to that point and you've gone bankrupt and you feel like I'm starting over at 50, and you're just like, the burden of it is like you feel as though you just can't do it anymore, and you get into this mindset, and mindset matters, that you can't.
How do you, okay, so let me start with some of the basics here, because I think sometimes it gets a little bit like blown out of, well, I'll never be able to get there. What happens when, and let me set up the scenario, you have too much month and not enough money? How do you ever get caught up when you always feel like you are behind? Like, can you give us maybe an easy savings tactic or tool or trick to trick yourself into saving even a little bit of money where you wouldn't necessarily traditionally save any money?
I always hate to use the example, but it is a great example, right? Is, if you're getting that cup of coffee every morning, make it at home. I mean, literally, people think it's not enough, right? That's only like $20 a month. That's not enough. It's enough. Start. It's like Nike, just do it. And maybe it's yeah, I'm not telling you to go out and don't do something that you love.
Right.
That's the opposite actually of what I'm telling you. If you love that Starbucks coffee or that Pete's coffee or that Black Rifle coffee, that whatever coffee it is that you like, if you love it and that makes your whole day, keep doing that. But find something else. Go through your subscriptions.
Oh, that's
Those things
crazy.
pile
Yep.
up and
Yep.
you don't even realize I had two subscriptions to the same thing. Didn't realize that I had paid it for years, which
Wow.
added up to like $1,000
Right.
extra. And I was just
Right.
like banging myself in the head. But it happens to people like me. Then I know it happens to people who aren't as diligent about checking that kind of thing. Are you really using something? There's other things too that I think we've gotten maybe as a culture, and I don't want to get political, but we've gotten to the point where we have to have everything new. I mean, there are so many things now. You can go out, like I was just talking to my son about this. First of all, he had to move. So he was moving, he had to get rid of some stuff. He was downsizing. So I said, put it on, offer up or put there's
Hmm.
like 3 or 4 different sites you can put it
Right.
in.
Right.
No, it's terrible, right? You paid $500 for something and you're gonna get 50 for it now. 50 is better than zero,
Correct.
right? So that's another way to maybe do that. Excuse me. Or the other side of that is I need a couch to sit on. I need something to sit on. Go on these sites, these offer ups, so you can get it for $50. And a
It's
lot of this, you got to watch, you got to do a little work, right? And maybe you go somewhere and it's not what you thought, so you leave it there. But you'll find stuff. I've my wife and I have found stuff because we've done a lot of moving around in the last 3 years, and we're finally settled down someplace. But when you're moving around, you're not sure whether you're going to be in the same place for a little while. You go, I bought a washer and dryer set for $100. And when we
crazy.
moved, I sold it for $100.
100%
No
ROI.
joke. Yeah. I mean, I get a little granular in my thinking and all that. And you don't have to do that. But if you're in that situation, those are just a few things. But I've got a whole litany of
I,
I
can I can I share a savings trick that has just seemed to work for me for literally the last 40 some odd years that I've been putting even a couple of bucks away, even in the times when I didn't think I had any money to put away. When
yeah,
you put when you put money into an auto deposit, let's say you take it from your checking account and throw it into your savings account. So you get your
mhm,
paycheck in the first, and we'll talk about this, I'm sure, either this or another episode, but you take that little bit of money, even if it's $50 a month, you
yeah,
automatically just deposit it on the first or the fifth or whatever the day is, and you do it every month. Once you've done that for 2 or 3 months, you forget that you're even doing it anymore, and then you turn around and like, holy crap, I have $2,500 in that savings account now that I didn't realize that I had before. It only has one direction. It's deposit. It's like it's spent money. It's like being spent on a bill. I am the bill. And for me, that has been a trick that has worked in really lean times. And when it gets really good, if income gets really good, you can always up it and you can always bring it back down, but it never stops. It always comes out of my account. Is that something that you share with your clients?
absolutely. I would say almost all of my clients under 40 and many of them over 50 have that set up, and they it automatically draws, and we can set it up for them or they can set it up for themselves, whatever. Automatically draws a certain amount, and then we touch base, say, hey, guess what, that's in there now, and guess what, we've actually put it to work for you, so it's not just earning the 0.01% that you're getting in your checking account. It's getting in, these days with short-term rates where they are, they're getting 5%,
Yeah, yeah.
and things like that. And suddenly that begins to grow even more than I put in. This is pretty cool, right? And I have a 17-year-old client, I have an 18-year-old client, I have some 20-year-old clients, and that's what they're doing. They don't have a lot, but what they can, they put away, and they're amazed. You get to a year, 2 years, they're just amazed at what they have.
I'd love you to emphasize the point, and I can share just a personal story. In my mid 40s, I went through a divorce, and it was a very expensive divorce. My wife of 20 years and I split, and she had never had a work outside the home job. So again, financially, we wanted to make sure that she remained whole and she was able to get back up on her feet and find a job and all of the things. But it was 7 years of grueling financial despair on my part, because all of my extra money was going into her, ability to pay her bills. And I felt like at the end of that 7 years, I'm like, will I ever be able to make this up again? So can you share maybe the reality of where life takes people with maybe use of either an example or just what you've experienced with your clients, that it's not too late to ever come back from that kind of hole. It might not be the same exact scenario as you would have had, but you can still come back from even that.
Yes, you can come back from even that. And I'm going to say something that Tony Robbins is going to get very upset with me for saying. I love Tony Robbins. I love what he does. And he always says, raise your standards, right? And I completely agree with that. There are times in our lives where we need to lower our standards and we need to be extremely satisfied that we have a car that runs and gets us from
Mm-hmm.
point A to
Mm-hmm.
point B. It does not have to be a Lexus. It does not have to be a Ferrari. And those are extreme examples, but maybe it doesn't have to be a Toyota Avalon, but it could be a Toyota Camry or a Honda Civic. I
Yep.
have a Honda Civic because cars used to be very important to me, and I had my Corvette, and I had some very nice vehicles until I realized, man, I am just flushing a lot of money down the drain. And
Oh my gosh. Yeah.
am I really getting that much joy out of it? Maybe in my younger years I did, but there's other things I get more joy out of. I know it becomes a cliche, but really take some time. And it's good to take some time that's not with yourself, not just you, but with somebody that you trust, that is not your mother, your brother, your sister, not somebody like that, but somebody who's going to be honest with you and ask you the why questions like we do at Guardian Rock. And we just ask why. Why does that bring you joy? Why does that bring, and a lot of times we find out there's a good reason for it and they should keep doing it. A
Mm-hmm.
lot of times we realize when they start answering their own questions, I don't know. They just say, I don't know. And you know what? I can cut out $100 here. I can cut out $500 here. And you know what? I can invest that and do more of the stuff that brings me more joy.
One of the things I hate the most, I hate car payments. I just hate them. I have a 2011 Highlander. It's 2023 right now. So that car is 13 years old, pretty much. I haven't had a car payment in, 7 years on that car, 8 years on that car. And that's the greatest feeling. I get in there and it still has that, in my opinion, that new car feel to it. And part of it is the fact that it still feels new because it's a Toyota, but it's also I don't have a car payment on this thing. There is joy getting into a car that basically is free for you. I love that. And think about your average car payment nowadays. It's probably more than $400, probably between $400 and $700 or $500. Okay, is that what the average
500
car payment is right now?
Yeah.
7 years of not having a car payment. So what's that? Just do the simple math. It's 770 plus it's 84 months times $500. That that's 40 some odd $1,000 that I haven't had to spend on the car.
The other thing that we do with people too is I help them get their payment paid off, or whatever it is I help them get that done. And then, they very rarely do they ever think about, what if I kept paying that payment,
Yeah.
but I paid it to myself
Yes. Yes.
automatically
Yes.
so that I don't see it, because that's a big psychological thing. If you see it in your checking account or in your wallet, you're gonna spend it. That and the cash thing, kind of counter saying the opposite thing, only spend cash, and it's getting harder to do now. But if you go to the grocery store with $200, you're not going to spend $205
Right. Right.
because you saw that, man, I really want those chips. You're going to be like, everything you look at, you're going to be like, let's see, you're going to be doing the math. Let's see. Okay. I can't. And it works.
If you use cash, again, just another really easy trick that you can do to trick yourself into savings, and it's amazing how quickly it accumulates. I have on my desktop right here. Change only comes into my house; it never leaves my house. So anytime I have change, it goes into the jar. $1,000, probably in the course of 15 or 16 months, I've been able to put into that freaking jar. And I go to the grocery store and I use that, to then they give you a little discount off the groceries if you use the stuff at the change at the store. All of the things, it's like, this is really cool. I love tricking myself into, look, for me, it's just a big game. So it's easy.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we do the same thing. We've got to change drawer, which then goes into the change jar. And once that jar gets filled up, we take it in and we put it in the machine. Some of the machines charge you a little bit, but you can find them that don't charge you anything.
Right. Some of the credit unions,
bank.
Yeah. Right. Exactly. They don't.
And you can put it in there. It doesn't cost you anything. And sometimes, well, this is like $300, $400, $500 one time I put in there.
So let me tell you, for those of you that are listening in John's community, our community, that if you're listening to the podcast, it's not just the tool, it's the accountability to using the tool that sometimes creates the great habit. By having somebody like John, who is there on your side, on your team, the winning team, to make sure that you can either rebound from that setback that you have, or you don't have to worry about, hey, I can't afford to do this in my retirement, or I can never retire because I don't have enough money. I promise you, there are systems and processes and tools that John has in his brain. He's been doing this forever. Well, how many years you been doing this, John?
A little over 30 years.
Okay, so 30 years. That's considered forever in my mind. He's been doing it for 30 years. He's got the experience behind him. And now is the opportunity to be held accountable. Talk to John, talk to the folks at Guardian Rock. This is the stuff that you need on your side in order to get you from where you are right now, which may be a little bit negative about it, might not be able to get there. You will get there. You just got to follow John and his team, and you will get there. You got the final word, John.
Yeah, I want to say one thing too. One of the things about this episode is really important for me that people understand is that, yes, do I have $5 million clients? Absolutely. Love those $5 million clients, $3 million, $2 million clients, and we work with them. And that's really a different conversation when you get there. But how do you think they got there? Yes, some of them inherited it. Others, that is true. But a lot of them started by putting change in a jar. They started when they were young. Matter of fact, a lot of them started when they were young and just put away $100, $200. And they moved it to $400 or $500 a month, whatever it is. And now they've got that $1 million, $2 million, $3 million that they're really able to actually live on and not even worry about Social Security. Social Security is like gravy. They don't have to worry about whether or not they can go to the grocery store, and none of that, but they don't even have to worry about whether or not they can go on that cruise or not, or whatever it is they love to do. That's how you get there. Start somewhere, and we'll talk with you. We'll help you get there. We do have an emerging investors program for those that are not there yet.
All right. So John's got the final word. It was right there. More great content coming to you again next week. Thanks for being here at the Building Your Life podcast, along with my friend John Browning. Thanks, John, for sharing your wisdom and your experience with our audience today.
All right. See you next week.